A huge round of applause to Joel, because this guy is awesome. That's me. So Joel's right. I hope you're impressed with this presentation. So I've been sick all week. I have 2 kids under the age of 2. And for those in here, I see lots of young people. None of you guys have kids. Don't have kids. But so I got sick, I got the kids sick, and then the kids got me sick. And so I've had a fever for like a week. So if I pass out like that, just try and resuscitate me. So my name is Brad. I thought I would start my talk by telling an embarrassing childhood story, because I feel like, I don't know, you guys are creatives, right? Like, I feel like that's the true test of whether you like someone, like how great their embarrassing childhood story is. And my embarrassing childhood story starts, this is where I grew up, exit 7A off the New Jersey Turnpike. If there are any people from New Jersey, this would seem funny. Is there anyone from New Jersey? Yes! What exit? What exit are you from?
Oh, I'm not. I'm off of 95.
Oh. You totally ruined my joke. Is there anyone from an exit off of the Turnpike? Is it just me? It's just me. So anyway, I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, exit 7A, and these are my parents. This is when they met in Seoul, South Korea. This is my father, Walter, with the great pork chops. And this is my mother, Sunya, and my dad had a tour of duty in Vietnam. He was stationed in Seoul. He played in a Motown band, and that's where they met. My mom went to one of his performances, and which was kind of cool. And they made sweet, sweet love, or so so they tell me. And they made this family. This is me. I'm the one mean mugging, and that's my brother Sean. And I'm providing this context for the story I'm about to tell you. And there's a little bit of context as well. This is me. You can tell we're kind of a melting pot of a family. But at the time, I'm like 9 or 10 years old. And I really thought of myself as this strong black man. And I'm not kidding. I thought of myself as a really strong black man. I don't know. Probably because I emulated my father, who was a strong black man. I listened to a lot of early 90s hip-hop, a lot of A Tribe Called Quest. So I'm 9 years old, and I'm, quoting lyrics about Afrocentricity. I was a very confused little black Korean boy. And my father decides, Brad, you have to go to basketball camp. My dad was a coach, and he decides that, I lived in a little district in Trenton that was largely Italian-American, like 99% Italian-American. And my dad signed me up for a basketball camp in downtown Trenton, which is a very different demographics. And none of my other friends were going to this camp. It was just me. So I was very nervous about this basketball camp. I'd never been to a basketball camp. I didn't have any friends, and I wanted to make sure that I played well. And so as we're driving up to the basketball camp, I remember getting out of the car, and I have my ball underneath me, and I walk into the gym, and I see a sea of black kids and black parents. And I remember a feeling of relief wash over me, and I thought to myself, oh, thank God, my people. My people. I was concerned, Father, why did you not bring me to my brothers and sisters earlier? And so in the morning, we did drills, we did defensive drills, we did dribbling drills, and in the afternoon, we had the first scrimmage. And I was really fired up about this, right? I wanted to prove that I could play. And it was shirts and skins, and my team was skins. And this was how I viewed myself. I viewed myself as B.J. Armstrong is my favorite basketball player at the time. And I'm dribbling the ball up the court, and I still remember it clear today. I'm dribbling the ball up the court, I'm getting in there, and my teammates, it was like a symphony, and they were all saying the same thing. And it was like a tenor, it was an alto, and it was a bass, and they were all yelling, Chinese boy, throw me the ball, Chinese boy. Hey, yo, Chinese boy, I'm open. And I'm dribbling the ball, and I'm like, who are they talking to? Who's the Chinese boy? And then I realized they were talking about me. And it was like earth-shattering. I was like, I'm Chinese. I didn't know. And so I passed the ball. I just gave it up. And I was actually really sad. This is the way I felt. I was really sad. I was confused. I was sad. And I literally didn't play the rest of the game. I think when they passed me the ball, I just passed it back because I didn't want to be called Chinese boy. And my father picked me up from the camp. And I get in the car. He's like, how did the first day go? And I said, well, apparently I'm Chinese, Dad. And he said, what? So I tell him the story. And my father, I've seen my dad laugh over the years. But I have never seen my father laugh so hard. He was like convulsing. He was laughing so hard. So we get home, and my dad tells my mom, you have to hear this story. So I tell my mom the story, and then my brother got home from school, and I told him the story. But I didn't think it was funny. I was really sad, and I told my dad, I'm not going to camp. I'm not going back. My teammates just call me Chinese boy, and so I don't want to play. And so my father, and these are Papa J's 3 words of wisdom, whenever I am feeling very vulnerable and embarrassed, I go back to Papa J's 3 words of wisdom. And the first one was, Brad, don't take yourself so seriously. You're not Chinese. You're Korean. And you're black. But you're Brad. You are Brad. Don't take yourself so seriously. Your teammates didn't know who you are. And so you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And so I said, all right, fine. And number 2, be good at what you do. He asked me, well, how well did you play? And I said, well, I didn't really play. I just passed the ball. I didn't really do anything. He's like, well, of course they called you Chinese boy. You have to be an active participant. You have to give it your all. You have to be who you aspire to be at all times. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll play harder tomorrow. And he's like, you got to play harder than you've ever played. I'm like, all right, I'll play harder than I've ever played. And his third tip was, you got to be good to people, Brad. It's like, how did you treat your new friends? And I said, well, I was pissed off. So the rest of the day, I just didn't talk to anyone, and I was sheltered, and I didn't open up. And he said, well, you got to open up. If you're good to people, that goodness will come back to you tenfold. And so I took my father's advice, and I went to camp the next day. And just like a Wonder Years episode, Kevin Arnold episode, the scrimmage came again at the end of the day. And probably not a surprise, I hit the game-winning shot. And it wasn't as dramatic as this. And it wasn't like a buzzer beater. I think I sort of went like this, and it went in. And we won. And the center of my team, this tall kid, Justin, who became a good friend of mine, comes up to me, points his finger right in my chest. And he said, what's your name again? I'm like, oh, it's Brad. He's like, Brad. And I was never Chinese boy again. And it was a heartfelt moment for me. It was a moment of identity. It was a moment of being courageous, a moment of being brave. And I know what you're thinking. There's me. I was so happy. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, cool story, bro. But what does this have to do with action? And the story has to do with action because this is the story that I told. It wasn't to 220 people, 220 creatives. This is a story that I told in a house party. I told this story to 10 other people in early 2007 in Palo Alto, California. Is there anyone in the room who knows what I'm talking about, knows what a house party and knows, maybe went to a house party in 2007? Anyone? Oh man, I'm so old. There's one person. Holy crap. Okay. Well, why do we tell stories? At the time, there was this guy running for president, and his name was Senator Barack Hussein Obama. And he was down at the time from Hillary Clinton by 30 points in California. And my wife and I had just moved to California. My wife was starting law school in the fall, and so we go to this house party. And I sort of felt kind of like the way I felt at basketball camp. I had never been to a political event before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen. And we got there, and all we did was tell stories. That was the whole concept of Obama's grassroots volunteer army. And it was from Marshall Gans, who's kind of the architect of community organizing. And it was all about storytelling. It was all about shared purpose. And I came in thinking, we're going to talk about macroeconomics. We're going to talk about healthcare policy. We're going to talk about whatever. And in fact, we talked about our own stories. We talked about what was important to each of those people in our community, and whether it was education, whether it was after-school education, whether it was healthcare to their families. It was all personal. It was all shared. And I drank the Kool-Aid, as you can probably tell. And I took it very seriously. And storytelling about creating purpose. And I joined the campaign officially. And I quit my job. I was working in finance at the time. And I was invited to work in Chicago for the general election. And this is what happened with storytelling. 2 million volunteers. And this is before Facebook. I think Facebook at this point was like in a Harvard dorm room. These were all in-person events, 200,000 events, 400,000 blog posts. These were largely just stories. And these were volunteers. These were people coming together in communities, and they were doing voter registration events. And they were doing canvassing. They were knocking on doors. And they were largely organizing their own block and organizing their own street. And they were doing it largely just because they love this idea. They love this idea of Obama, and they love this idea of being bigger than just themselves. And you guys all know what happened. It was one of the largest presidential landslides in history. In particular, the youth vote. 66%, of the youth vote went for Obama, and 69% of first-time voters were inspired to action. This is Grant Park in Chicago, where my wife and I are probably somewhere around here. And we were bawling our eyes out. I mean, literally crying and bawling our eyes out. Oprah was like right behind us. I'm not kidding. And I thought to myself, how did we get here? How did we become a part of this movement? How did we get to be literally here in Grant Park to witness this moment? And it was from that stupid story that I told in a house party. And it's all these stories that were being told across the country. And so, crazily enough, the Obama campaign continued, and we had to occupy the White House. And this was a very bizarre thing for me to process, because I remember being in Chicago, and I remember people talking about, well, if we win, we're going to get to work in the White House. And I thought to myself, well, you're wearing pajama pants. Like, you're not going to work in the White House. Right. They're going to bring in the real professionals to work in the White House. But somehow, all those kids worked in the White House. And I worked for the president for 4 years. And I worked in an office that was very similar to what I just described, our Office of Public Engagement. Our job was to connect to people. And there are a lot of offices in the White House. There's a communications office and the speechwriting office and the policy offices. And they were really concerned with making sure the president's message gets out via the press to as many people as possible, 300 million people. And our job was really to work with innovators, influencers, people that can spread the message much better than the president can in some cases. And I had the honor and privilege of working with the creative community. And the most important thing that we worked on, our office's probably biggest challenge, was Obamacare, which, as I'm sure you guys probably remember, was a little divisive. I don't know if you guys remember. So the president campaigned on changing our healthcare system. He passed legislation in March of 2010 that was the largest overhaul of our healthcare system since LBJ. And there was a lot of opposition to the law. There was $400 million of negative ads in opposition to the law. 2010 it passed. There was 40 repeal attempts to unwind the law. And then there was also a Supreme Court case, which I'm sure everyone remembers. And it wasn't until 3 years later, in 2013, that finally open enrollment started. And open enrollment was, for the first time in history, any American can go on an exchange, go on a website, and sign up for health care. And the challenge that our office had, is that we needed people to sign up. In order for this thing to work, in order for this law to work, we needed people to sign up. Yeah, a little awkward. It still creeps me out looking at it today. And here was the thing, the opposition was smart. The opposition was smart about how they were going to try and muck up this law. They did creepy spots like this, but it was aimed at young people. Why do you think it was aimed at young people? Well, it's a policy reason. Because in order for these exchanges to work, we knew because, and it's part of the reason why the president fought so hard to get the law passed, there were going to be millions of people who were counting on this law. Millions of people who were sick, millions of people who were elderly, millions of people who needed that life-saving cancer treatment or got dropped from their health care plan because of pre-existing conditions. And as soon as that exchange opened, they were going to sign up. And so you can imagine if only the people signing up were people that are sick and people that need care, the risk pool of the insurance exchanges are going to be all out of whack. We needed to find a lot of healthy young people to counterbalance the sick people. So the opposition, I will call them, spent a whole lot of money on targeting young people. This is not Photoshop. This is a real thing. So they did those spots, the Uncle Sam spots, and then they got Uncle Sam to start going to tailgate parties in the South, because the South was where the vast majority of young uninsured people lived. And they did tailgates, keg parties. They were drinking and everything, and they were telling young kids, don't get care. You're a patriot. You don't need health care. Which is just so wrong on so many different levels. And this is the way we felt. We felt like, how do we, Uncle Sam with a keg, how do we compete with that? And the other challenge that we had, we didn't have that campaign army that I had talked about before. We didn't have a ground game. We didn't have 2 million volunteers that could go and help tell the story. And we had no budget. You saw that incredible graphic, $400 million of negative media compared to the 15 or so positive media that we had. I will say that there were a coalition of health organizations, I'm sure there's a couple in the room, who stepped up in a very big way and who were the ground game, who were doing the enrollment on the ground, but nothing compared to the campaign infrastructure that we had. So we had to be strategic. I love this shot. I don't even know. I Google search, I just put Obama binoculars and boom. Google image search is amazing. So we had to be targeted. Much like the campaign, we had to use data. We had to figure out, well, where are these healthy, young, uninsured people? And our policy teams and our political strategy office figured out, all right, here's where they are. And these are the kind of 3 main points. One in 3 of these healthy young people lived in California, Texas, or Florida, which gives you an interesting demographic profile. Majority were non-white, and majority were male. And so we did what anyone would do. We went to celebrities because, they can reach people. And we thought, well, look, consumer experts are telling us this is an easy, in some cases, inexpensive way of reaching that core demographic. These messengers are going to be able to carry that water to this target demo. So we got Katy Perry and Jason Derulo during the MTV VMAs of all things to voice safe support for Obamacare. And then we went out and got 70 celebrities on the day that the open enrollment started, October 1st, to take to Instagram. And Lady Gaga herself, 70 million Twitter followers. This huge opportunity to tell their story of why healthcare matters to them. And I remember this day for a number of reasons. I remember this day, one, because it was a government shutdown. I'm not sure if you guys remember this. It's very dramatic. But 2, I remember this day because I got a lot of angry phone calls this day from a lot of the talent managers and publicists of these stars because there was incredible traffic and millions of people were clicking on Pharrell and Lady Gaga's tweets, and this is what they were getting. Yeah, you guys remember that? The website didn't work. Oh man, was that an ugly day. This is how I felt. Different Michael Jordan feeling. And I immediately regretted that decision. Lady Gaga's never gonna call me back. It was brutal. It was brutal. It lasted for weeks. Every day that the exchanges didn't work were days that community I just talked about, community of people that really needed the care, we were letting them down. And those healthy young people that we're going to try to reach, I mean, like, we lost those guys. They were going to sign up anyway. It was brutal, brutal, brutal. I even did the Riker facepalm. That's how much of a facepalm it was. And so what ended up happening, as I'm sure you guys remember, there was in typical DC fashion, there was a healthcare.gov czar that was announced, the incomparable Jeff Zients. And I urge everyone to read this article. It's about this guy, Mikey Dickerson, from Silicon Valley, and this team of engineers that came to Washington, and they didn't sleep, and they fixed the website. But it took 2 months. 2 months. Think about that. We knew it was going to be hard to get people to enroll with a functioning website. We just had 2 months of Jon Stewart making fun of us. We were going to have a fundamental problem in reaching the core demographic. And so we needed a solution. And we thought, we should probably listen to Mark Twain, because why not? We needed to figure out a way to be honest. We needed to figure out a way to be truthful. And we needed to do it in a very fun way, a very funny way. And the other thing we needed to do is we needed to cross party lines. And laughter, we know, crosses party lines. I will say that as a product of 2 very conservative Republican parents. If it's a funny joke, it's a funny joke. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian. And so we went to Captain Planet. No. And so this is where Funny or Die comes in.
Another day, another problem.
If they weren't fully ready, they should have delayed another year.
2 weeks into the rollout of the Obamacare website, guess what? It still isn't working.
More chaos on the Obamacare front, as you may know.
Obamacare is a failure. It's always been a failure, and it will not succeed.
Okay, let's get this out of the way. What did you come here to plug?
Have you heard of the Affordable Care Act?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's the thing that doesn't work.
It worked. It's boosted traffic to healthcare.gov by 40%.
This video has actually gone viral and to the very people that they need.
Those kinds of media appearances are really going to define presidents.
In 10 years, people are going to look back, and that's just going to be how it's done.
Jesus Christ!
Hey, how's it going?
My little celebrity army.
Kevin, I could be a motherfucking role model.
Isn't that just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Finally, an actual scandal.
How is that possible? That's the approximate population of Singapore.
Listen to me very carefully.
Oh my God, I'm listening. So I figure if we're going to run our businesses like it's the 1960s, I'm going to act like it.
I've personally overseen a strategic and covert operation that killed the gopher who's been tearing up my backyard.
I've got a great sketch, and I hope I can pitch it to somebody.
Yeah, that's so funny, I almost forgot to laugh.
Colonel Sanders loves the gays.
Biting social satire goes down smooth.
This is the most unprofessional set I've ever been on. And cut.
Do not go!
Let's go, Big Bird!
I'm coming, Billy.
Thanks for the interview, and thanks for letting me shoot my show here all these years.
Seriously? Who gave him clearance?
So I'm sure that everyone's seen Ferns, right? With the president, pretty much. All right, well, I'll show just a little bit of it, and then we'll get back.
Sorry I had to cancel a few times. My mouse pad broke last week, and I had to get my great aunt some diabetes shoes, and...
You know what, Zach? It's no problem. I mean, I have to say, when I heard that, like, people actually watch this show, I was actually pretty surprised.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Between Two Ferns. I'm your host, Zach Galifianakis, and my guest today is Barack Obama. President Barack Obama.
Good to be with you.
First question. In 2013, you pardoned a turkey. What do you have planned for 2014?
We'll probably pardon another turkey. We do that every Thanksgiving. Was that depressing to you, seeing one turkey kind of taken out of circulation, a turkey you couldn't eat?
So how does this work? Do you send Ambassador Rodman to North Korea on your behalf? I had read somewhere that you'd be sending Hulk Hogan to Syria, or is that more of a job for Tanya Harding?
Exactly. He's not our ambassador.
What should we do about North IKEA? North. I have to know, what is it like to be the last black president?
What's it like for this to be the last time you ever talked to a president?
It must kind of stink, though, that you can't run, 3 times.
No, actually, I think it's a good idea. If I ran a third time, it'd be sort of like doing a third Hangover movie. Didn't really work out very well, did it? I have to say that I've seen this show before, and some of the episodes have probably been a little bit better than this. For example, the one with Bradley Cooper, that was a great show.
Bradley Cooper, yeah, everybody loves
He kind of carried that movie.
Which film are you speaking of?
Those Hangover movies. Basically, he carried them.
Yeah, everybody loves Bradley. Good for him.
Good-looking guy.
Being like that in Hollywood, that's easy. Tall, handsome, that's easy. Be short, fat, and smell like Doritos and try to make it Hollywood. Is it going to be hard in 2 years when you're no longer president and people will stop letting you win at basketball?
How does it feel having a 3-inch vertical?
It's a 3-inch horizontal. So. Where are you planning on building your presidential library, in Hawaii or your home country of Kenya? Because, both places seem like they would be...
Zach, that's a ridiculous question.
Well, not to bring up the birth certificate thing, but you really never did really produce your real...
Where's your birth certificate? Why don't you show it to us right now?
I don't want to show anybody my birth certificate because it's embarrassing.
What's embarrassing about it?
My weight on it, it says that I was 7 pounds, 800 ounces. You know what I would do if I were president, Mr. President? I would make same-sex divorce illegal, then see how bad they want it.
Why you're not president. And that's a good thing.
You said if you had a son, you would not let him play football. What makes you think that he would want to play football? What if he was a nerd like you?
Do you think a woman like Michelle would marry a nerd? Why don't you ask her whether she thinks I'm a nerd?
Could I?
No, I'm not going to let her near you.
So do you go to any websites that are .coms or .nets, or do you mainly just stick with .govs?
No, actually, we go to .govs. Have you heard of healthcare.gov?
Here we go. Okay, let's get this out of the way. What did you come here to plug?
Well, first of all, I think it's fair to say that I wouldn't be with you here today if I didn't have something to plug. Have you heard of the Affordable Care Act?
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's the thing that doesn't work. Why would you get the guy that created the Zune to make your website?
Healthcare.gov works great now. And millions of Americans have already gotten health insurance plans. And what we want is for people to know that you can get affordable health care. And most young Americans, right now, they're not covered. And the truth is that they can get coverage all for what it costs you to pay your cell phone bill.
Is this what they mean by drones?
The point is that a lot of young people, they think they're invincible.
Did you say invisible? Because
no,
I just think that's impossible.
Not invisible, invincible.
Okay.
Meaning that they don't think they can get hurt.
I'm just saying that nobody could be invisible if you had said invisible.
I understand that. If they get that health insurance, it can really make a big difference. And they've got till March 31st to sign up.
I don't have a computer, so how does...
Well, then you can call 1-800-318-2596.
I don't want you people like looking at my text, if you know what I mean.
First of all, Zach, nobody's interested in your texts. But second of all, you can do it in person. And the law means that insurers can't discriminate against you if you've got a pre-existing condition anymore.
Yeah, but what about this, though?
That's disgusting. How long have you had that?
Oh, just 4 months.
Really?
Spider bites. I got attacked by spiders.
Zach, you need to get that checked right away. You need to get on healthcare.gov because that's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
Is your plug finally open?
I suppose so.
So which country were you rooting for in the Winter Olympics?
Seriously? I'm the President of the United States. What do you think, Zach?
I want to thank President Obama for being on the show.
I'm going to press this.
Don't touch that, please. Thanks for the interview, and thanks for letting me shoot my show here all these years.
You've been shooting these shows here in the diplomatic room? Who gave you permission to do that?
Bush.
Seriously? Who gave him clearance?
What's the spider bite?
That's the other hand.
No, it's everywhere.
So that was magic. And the incredible statistics about this in the video that you guys saw, 40% uptick in traffic to healthcare.gov, 898,000 visits. But the incredible thing about it is the click-throughs, the people going to the website, 90% of those people had never been to the website before. So going back to the demographics of who we were trying to reach the people that weren't going to the website, that didn't need the care. And back to the original, great content solves problems. You guys know this, you're creatives. The incredible thing about Ferns, and not to get too in the weeds on the creativity aspect of it, the context of it, but Zach and Scott created this program to really make fun of and satirize talk shows. This idea that these massive stars, these A-list stars, would go on a talk show and tell these kind of silly, embarrassing childhood stories to a late night audience just so that they can plug their movie or just so that they can plug their record or their album. And so the idea that the president would subject himself to those insane lines of questions just so that he can plug healthcare.gov, it's doubly funny because it's honest and it's truthful and it's genuine. And the incredible thing about it is the fact, at least for me, I took the most satisfaction from is that there's a funny or die rating. I'm not sure if people are even aware of that whole concept of funny or die these days. But funny or die, you watch a video, you can rank it either funny or die. Thinking through all of the opposition, all of the millions of dollars, how polarizing this law was, that video was ranked 91% funny. It didn't matter if you're a Republican, it didn't matter if you're a Libertarian, those jokes were funny. And it activated people in the right way. We make funny stuff that people talk about. There is a line graph, which I unfortunately don't have here. It was the water cooler moment for the first enrollment period. We hit our target literally based off of the strength of that video, particularly for young people. And it was largely because our audience, probably not a surprise, is that very demographic. 80% of our audience are 18 to 34. And so what are we doing now? I'm not sure if people have seen this. I would love to show this video too, but we don't have time to just show videos the whole time. But the vision here is to combine these two worlds, to combine this world of creating action, inspiring action, and now not doing it in a vacuum. Funny or Die videos, as I'm sure you guys saw, they've been doing this type of stuff for years, since its inception really, doing videos for social good and hopefully moving the needle and making the country a better place. But now we're doing it with partners. Now we're doing it, this video was done in partnership with the American Heart Association. The American Heart Association is fighting for the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, the First Lady's Healthy School Lunches bill. And so what better way to fight for that bill than a funny video of Nick Offerman talking about a pizza farm. We don't need government regulations for healthy school lunches. And so back to Papa J's 3 words of wisdom. I told you that story totally related in some shape or form. But back to those 3 words of wisdom, revisited. And I'm going to revisit it from the moment that the website went down, 2 months later, and we had to go back to the American people and try to convince them to use healthcare.gov. And the first one is, don't take yourself so seriously. We need to be able to laugh at ourselves. Now that the website worked, we couldn't laugh at ourselves when the website wasn't working. But now the website worked, we need to be able to laugh at ourselves. Be good at what you do. And this is something that I think you guys could appreciate more than anyone because you are creatives and you are content creators. The White House didn't just create a comedy video. The White House didn't just think to themselves, let's be funny. The White House sought out the funniest people in the country because that's what they do. They make people laugh and they can connect with millions of people. And so there was a lot of trust there. There was trust that Zach and Scott and Mike Farrell were going to be able to carry that water. And vice versa. There was trust that the president was going to be able to get that policy input in that video. As you saw, that wasn't in there until like 4 minutes in, right? So we trusted that people were going to stick with this video. People were going to watch that full 6 minutes, and they were going to see the healthcare bit in the 4th minute. And third, be good to people. Funny or Die's been doing this for many years. This opportunity didn't just come out of thin air. They've been investing in creative for social good, and they had this wonderful opportunity. But the whole idea of coming back tenfold, I think coming back tenfold was for America, because this article just came out just this past week. It's been 33 years since America's uninsured problem was this small. And the biggest drop in the uninsurance rate, if you see here, is where the enrollment period started. Here's where we are now. It is pretty remarkable how far we've come since 2013. And I'm not saying that Zach Galifianakis saved Obamacare, but he kind of did. But what I am saying is that we all here in this room, creatives, content creators, we all have such incredible power to inspire action. And so what I hope that you guys get from this silly talk is that you all can create change. And you can do it by just doing the art that you do and inspiring an entire generation. It was incredible to me that literally there's only one hand that raised their hand who was a part of the Obama campaign in 2007. This is an entirely new generation. And regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, we have a commitment and a responsibility to make sure that we're all active participants in this democracy. And so I hope that all of you use your creative forces for good. With great powers comes great responsibility, and I hope that we can all make a lot of very funny videos together for 2016. Thank you so much, guys.